right, amen, amen. Good evening, FCBC family. Hope everybody's doing all right on tonight. Welcome, 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 as always, to our Tuesday night transformation. Pastor Trey here. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope your weeks are starting off well. Hope everybody's just doing good. Hope everything's working in your favor. Excited to be here tonight. Excited to have this conversation with you all as we're going. Feel free to tell me where you're from, where you're tuning in from, um, how you're doing on today. Uh, how's your Tuesday been? We got Harlem in here, upstate New York, uh, Bronx, FCBC family. Just excited to have you all here. But once again, just welcome to our Tuesday night transformation. Going to be a good night. Looking forward to a great conversation with everybody. We're going to be discussing Pastor Mike's sermon from this past Sunday, Unstoppable Friends, and what a word that was and needed, especially as we're still in the beginning of the year. It's a good time to figure out who is your friend, who still needs to be in your circle, and it's a great time to maybe remove some people from those positions of friendship that they might have been in that they might have not deserved. But once again, we're going to be discussing that on today. Real quick, just going to go ahead and just read that scripture that Pastor Mike was preaching from. Like I said, feel free, keep commenting in the chat. Let me know where you're from. Let me know how you're doing. And just let me know how's everything going. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll try to get to them as we move along. But Pastor Mike this Sunday came from the book of Mark, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. Book of Mark, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. Reads like this. When he returned to Capernaum after some days, it was reported that he was at home. So many gathered around there that there was no longer any room for them, not even in the front door. And he was speaking the word to them. Then some people came, bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. And when they could not bring him to Jesus because of the crowd, they removed the roof above him. And after having dug through it, they let down the mat on which the paralytic lay. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Now, some of the scribes were sitting there questioning in their hearts, "Why does this fellow speak in this way? It is blasphemy. Who can forgive sins but God alone?" At once, Jesus perceived in his spirit that they were discussing these questions among themselves, and he said to them, "Why do you raise such questions in your heart? Which is easier, to say to the paralytic, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Stand up and take your mat and walk'? But so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on the earth to forgive sins," he said to the paralytic, "I say to you, stand up, take your mat, and go to your home." And he stood up and immediately took the mat and went out before all of them, so that they were all amazed and glorified God, saying, "We have never seen anything like this. We have never seen anything like this." Let's just have a quick moment of prayer. Gracious God, we are just grateful and thankful just to be here another day, God. Grateful and thankful just to be present in this moment. We do not take the gift of life for granted, and we do not take it lightly, God. We are grateful and thankful that we can be in spaces where we can learn and grow together, God, as we all try to get closer to you, as we all try to strengthen our relationships with you, God. Just lead us and guide us as you see fit, God. Have your way on tonight so that we may get the glory out of you. It's in your name we pray, and we say amen, amen, amen. And once again, if you're in the chat, you're just tuning in, don't be afraid to say hi. Let me know where you're from. Let me know how you're doing. Good evening to all. Upper West Side in here. Harlem always in here. But yeah, let's get to it. So, Unstoppable Friends. And this comes at, like I said, a great time because we are still in the beginning of 2023. I know people are still, looking at their vision boards, looking at those goals that they set, looking at all the things that they want to do, how they wanted to get their year started. People are really, really getting into the grind of making sure that 2023 can be a successful year where everything that they want to happen can happen and will happen. Everything that they want to, all the goals that they want to hit, they will hit. Anything they want to accomplish, that we will accomplish it But something that we really need to throw in there is really evaluating our friends. Because if we are going to claim that we are unstoppable, we got to make sure that we got unstoppable people in our circle. We can't just be unstoppable by ourselves. We got to make sure that those around us are having the same mindset that we have. Those around us are in the same thought process that we are in, that we are all going to be unstoppable together. Because if you're not, if you don't have those people who are in your circle who feel that they are unstoppable, who aren't thinking like you do, who don't really fall in that category, then maybe we need to push back on who we are calling friends. As Pastor Mike says, we have a lot of acquaintances, but few friends, and we need to start really separating those acquaintances from friends. That's what we really need to do. We really need to evaluate the people who we call friend. Just because they're in our lives doesn't mean they're friends. Just because they might do something nice for you every once in a while doesn't mean they're friends. But what does it mean to be a friend? Pastor Mike really hit on a few as it relates to the story, but Pastor Mike, when I was listening, really talked about the three things that really stood out to me. He said, friends are dependable, friends are trustworthy, and friends are low maintenance. I feel like that's just like the basis of what it should be when you have somebody in your life who you call your friend, and when you have somebody in your life who you are allowing in your space, who you are allowing your time. Because listen, like you have to be serious about your time, your space, who you pour into. You can't just do that with everybody. And if everybody's not on the same page, if everybody isn't hitting just the bare minimum of being dependable, trustworthy, and low maintenance, then, once again, we need to reevaluate who we are calling friends. We need to evaluate the friends that are in our lives. So once again, pay attention to these things, because sometimes we get so used to calling people friends that we don't hold them to certain standards that they should be held to be able to hold that title of friend in your life. Because once again, your time is valuable, your space is valuable, and who you pour into is valuable. Because once again, you don't want to be in those, I like to call them parasitic relationships, where you're the one doing all the pouring, and they're not pouring back into you, where they're just feeding off you and feeding off you. And then, when we have these kind of parasitic friends, they'll literally lead you dry until there's nothing else left. So they'll let you pour out into them as long as you're willing to. So be careful who you're pouring out into and who you allow in your space and place. But once again, Pastor Mike highlighted some things. He said, dependable. That feels like that's just the bare minimum. Are they dependable? Are your friends there for you as you are for them? Like I said, a lot of these things go two ways. It's just not a one-way thing. Be just as dependable as they need to be, just as dependable as you are to them. Are they there? Can you pick up the phone and call them at night with your problem? Will they be there for you? Can you depend on them when you feel like nobody else can hear you, nobody else knows what you're going through? Are they the ones that you call when you're really feeling down, when you're really feeling low? Are these the people in your life that you feel are dependable, that you can really, really, really lean on in those moments where you feel like you are alone in the world, in those moments where you feel like nobody understands you? Yes, we know we can always go to God for these problems, but it's something to be said about having those friends that you can really lean on, that you can really go to, that really are dependable. And it's funny to say, like, you have some friends who a lot people, you call them friends, but they might need to be put in acquaintances that you have known a long time, and they might not be as dependable as a friend you've made last month. And once again, that goes into just reevaluating what it means to call somebody friend, and what it means to see somebody as being an unstoppable friend. Because once again, if they're going to be your friends, they need to be on the same mindset that we are going to be unstoppable this year. So he talked about dependability. He talked about trustworthiness, trusting the friend to the point where they ascend, they transcend bloodlines. We all have those friends who just become brothers or sisters just because we know them and they know us, and there's that relationship that has grown to the point where we consider them almost family. We consider them closer family than some of our relatives that we know. And that's really means to really be trustworthy. Somebody who you really trust, and you trust to tell things that you haven't told anybody else. Trust to even do something like, can you go pick up my mail? I'm not going to be able to make it. Can you go pick up my package? Amazon left on my door, and I told him not to. Just simple things that trust can range from little things to big things, but that trust is something big. If your trust is faltering in your friendship, then either there needs to be a conversation had around why that trust is faltering, or that once again you need to evaluate. It's going to be a key word tonight: evaluate what it really means to hold that friend there, what it really means to be a friend, and what you're really getting out of this relationship. If they're not dependable, if they're not trustworthy, then why is this someone that you are considering a friend? Why is this someone that you are giving your time, your space, and your energy and pouring into? Because once again, like I said, these are really big things. You can't just allow people to have access to these things. And um, once again, they're not really, they shouldn't be where they need to be in terms of being your friend. Yeah, somebody said that blood makes you related, but love makes you family. Yeah, that love is important as well. You got to be able to love these people. Love, they should love on you as you love on them through the thick and through the thin. But once again, like I said, a lot of these things we're talking about tonight go both ways. You can't be loving on them and not receiving that love back. You can't be doing that. So make sure that love is coming both ways. There are going to be times where, maybe they can't love you, or you can't give that love back, and that's okay. Because some days we're not able to give everything that we can. Your 100% is going to look different each and every day. Sometimes your 100% may be only that 50%, and that's all you can give today. That's all the love that you can give them today. But they should be open and knowing that, this is at your limit and this is all I can receive in this moment. Because once again, days to days vary. What goes on in your life varies. So things change, things happen, and your friends need to be around you to understand that about you. That day to day is going to look different. How much you can give on this day is look different, but I do know that you're giving your all, and I can recognize that as a friend, and I can see that, and I can respond how I need to respond, and or pour back into what I need to pour back into you in that moment, just because I'm such a good friend that we can read those things. So you're trustworthy, dependable, and he highlighted also as well low maintenance. Low maintenance. I think that's a big deal. You don't need those high maintenance friends where like every single phone conversation. Just for me, it seems like you're just almost exhausted after the phone call because it's just a lot. They need a lot from you. Low maintenance. You can, like he highlighted, you can go months without talking and then pick up. Like you were just talking yesterday. Those are the type of friends that they're friends, the love is there, and nothing needs to be said, nothing needs to be communicated about what is going on about that friendship, because you two and whoever else knows what is there and what is established as a friendship, and what is said doesn't need to be said sometimes about those things. Low maintenance friends, being low maintenance as a friend is very important, because like I said, those high maintenance friends can really, we love them, but they can really wear you out sometimes, and really weigh on you sometimes, because they're so high maintenance. And we got a lot of stuff going on in our lives, and we got our own things going on. So to have a high maintenance friend who just is very, just like I said, taking of your time, taking of what you have, you feel like it's work. Sometimes friendship should not feel like it has to be so much work, but sometimes it can be more than you are able to give in that moment, and those aren't that good, because once again, you're giving more than you're receiving. And sometimes even the high maintenance friends, it's good that in these situations we are able to communicate, because sometimes high maintenance friends don't even realize they're high maintenance friends. um, but that needs to be something you can tell, like, hey, like, sometimes I can't handle, what you're bringing. I love you, but like, can we tone it down somehow? Can we still do this? Because I still appreciate your communication. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you bring to me. But sometimes it could be a lot. And those are tough conversations, but they should be able to be had because of the friendship, because this is somebody you consider a friend. You have to be able to call your friends out and check them on things. I think that makes a great friendship as well, because you're not doing it out of spite. You're not doing it out of any negativity. You're doing it out of love. And that's really important when we're talking about these things, when we're really evaluating, or when we're really looking at what it means to be a friend and what it means to have unstoppable friends around you. And the last thing Pastor Mike really highlighted is that they're empathetic. And I think this is also so very important. They're empathetic. They feel what you go through. They feel, they can tell when you're hurting. They can tell when you're in pain. They can tell when you're happy. And they can meet you in those places. They can meet you in those places whether you need help, or whether they're going to be happy with you, whether they need to give you a little a bump to get you out your funk, or maybe you just need them just to sit with you where you're at. Sometimes that can be important too, just sitting with people where they're at. Sometimes sad people don't want in that moment just to have somebody come in there and just really come in with all the joy and all the extra energy. Sometimes they just need somebody just to sit with them in those moments. Sometimes you need that, and recognizing that, vice versa, is very important. Just to be able to recognize your friend's emotions, to recognize what's going on, and just be able to meet them where they're at, no matter what kind of emotions they're going through, whether they're sad, happy, in pain, any of those things. It is important to be able to meet them where they're at. You have to be able to. They should do that for you. You don't want you to be yourself to be down, and your friend just not sensing the room, just continues just to combat that, not purposely, but just because they don't sense these things. And once again, that's when, if this is a friend, a hard, maybe not so hard, but a conversation needs to be had about, what's going on right now. I can't handle this right now. Can we tone it down? I'm going through some stuff. And once again, it's tough sometimes to have these tough conversations, but if you are considering them a friend, they consider you a friend, this is an essential thing. These conversations that need to be had regarding some of these things I'm talking about. If you try to have that conversation and it's not receptive, they're not receptive to that, then once again, do I really need to give you a friend? Let's see what we got here. Evaluating the aspect of relationship is deep, especially when you have had no friends most of your life that wasn't sibling. That's very good. That's very good. Some people really do go through that. Sometimes the family members are your friends. Some people have those close knit families, and those are your closest friends. So when you are stepping outside of your comfort zone and trying to find friends, it's going to be hard to even want to do some of those same things you might have done with your siblings. Do some of the things you might have done with your cousins or aunts or any people who you've considered friends in your family. It's hard. It definitely is hard, but um, good things don't come with ease. Sometimes, like I said, you have to step out of your comfort zone to grow. You never know who you might meet, what kind of friends are out there for you, who can love on you even more than those siblings might have done, who can love on you even more. And I shouldn't say more, but in different ways that are healthy for you, in different ways that can help you grow, loving you in those ways that, that can really boost you to different places that you wouldn't have known about if you hadn't gone out there. Somebody else said, I've been on the other side for so many times. It's definitely not a good feeling when you're constantly pouring in and receiving nothing. Yes, that can be very, very exhausting. And sometimes it takes a while to even realize, what is going on in that situation. You could be pouring in, the person pouring in, and feeling exhausted, feeling drained, feeling just down, and not understanding why, not knowing why. But on the other side, it's because of your willingness to do those things. And that person, if you're going to pour into me, I'm not going to stop you, especially if I like what you're giving. If I like what you're putting out there, I'm not going to stop you, especially if I'm not a friend who is really trying to reciprocate what you're giving me. And then somebody said set boundaries, and that goes partially into that. You have to always be able to set those boundaries when it comes to those friendships. Set those boundaries quick. Let them know what's okay, what's not okay. And once again, if these are somebody that you consider your friends, they should be open to these things. They should be open to you setting boundaries with them. They should be open to setting boundaries with you. Everything doesn't have to be a fight. Everything doesn't have to be a disagreement. Friends understand you and understand what you're going through. So everything, because there's that understanding, everything doesn't need to be perceived as being negative when there's something like this, when there's something like setting boundaries, when there's something it's like, hey, I feel like I'm pouring into you much more than you're giving back in this relationship. I feel like I'm the one that's giving and not receiving. And once again, hard conversations, and sometimes we don't want to have them, but they are necessary and they are really needed. Because what we don't want in those situations, like I said, I'm really big, you have to communicate through these things. You have to communicate regardless what you're feeling, what you're going through. If you are upset with your friend, you should be able to communicate that without your friend getting upset at the mere fact that you're upset with them, because that happens a lot. So being able to communicate these things, be able to communicate those boundaries, being able to communicate what's good for you in friendships, being able to really evaluate like I said, I'm gonna highlight a few more, but evaluate those key ones that Pastor Mike said. Are you trustworthy? Are they dependable? Are they empathetic? Are they low maintenance? Because these are important. Because once again, if these things aren't happening, vice versa, you'll end up feeling just drained all the time. Like a simple phone call, a simple 5-minute phone call can drain you if these things aren't being reciprocated, if you don't feel like they are back and forth. But those are just some things that Pastor Mike highlighted. Those are some qualities that Pastor Mike highlighted. I'm just going to go through just a few more that I feel like are important when, looking at those friends around you, making sure you have those unstoppable friends who are really going to help you, especially in this year. Like I said, it's still January. We still have time to really evaluate, really set those boundaries and in terms of friendship, and really figure out who is there for us and who really is good for us. So, and that's beautiful. Somebody said they have a few day ones over 50 years of real friendship, and that is truly beautiful. That you can go have 50 years worth of experience, worth of friendship, worth of love, and that's really good. But just a few that I would like to highlight, just some qualities that I think should go into kind of this evaluation period. Good friends should be respectful. That's first and foremost. A good friend is respectful of you and your opinions, even if there is if they don't agree with them. Everybody doesn't have their own opinion, but this is a friend who, they might not agree with you, but they respect your opinion and they don't try to force their beliefs or what they think upon you, because there's that respect. That respect has got to be there. Some friends, can make those jokes that make you go, and was that, really a joke, or, you slipping some disrespect in there. And if you have to think that, it probably is true, because once again, if there's that respect there, if there's that, respect there, that those things won't be questioned. So there always should be a respect between some friends. Some good friends respect you and they don't let you fall. Good friends give you enough space when needed, but they also don't let you fall in that space. If they notice, some self-destructive things happening or some harm coming to you, they will intervene as required. That's always good to hear. Good to have those friends who can sense when something's wrong with you and really intervene in a way that they feel like they can help, whether it's a phone call, whether it's just reaching out to you, whether it's giving you a hug when you're feeling down. It could be just simple things that those friends can do. But once again, they operate in a way that they give you space, to have. They're not crowding you, but in the same sentence, they will be there when you most need them, so they won't let you fall. Good friends are forgiving. Good friends are forgiving. Good friend even is forgiving even when you are the one who's making the mistake. Even when they make mistakes, they know that everyone makes mistakes, and they're always willing to forgive you. Once again, that's vice versa, because we are humans. We're going to make mistakes. Things happen, and sometimes they can cause conflicts. But what you don't like to see is when conflict arises and friendships like immediately dissolve. Then what was the base of that friendship? If a single conflict can cause it to dissolve. I can understand if there's some serious things out there that can really cause friendships to dissolve. But I've seen some things that it's like, you're not talking to him because of that. Like, it seems a little petty. Like, I'll need to have a conversation, talk, and be adults about some things. But I understand there are some things that cannot be ignored. But in most situations, I feel like just certain problems shouldn't just dissolve friendship, because if it can dissolve friendship that easily, what was that friendship based in? Like, was there any love? Was there any respect? Were they dependable? Were they low maintenance? Were they trustworthy if they are just gone in a quick second? Good friends are authentic. Good friends are authentic. That goes vice versa. They can be authentic with you, and you can be authentic with them. A good friend is what that person sees you for who you are. What you see is what you get with that good friend. There's no barriers. There's no being fake. There's no like trying to hide yourself around that friend. There's no them trying to hide them with them with you. It's refreshing to know that you can both be your authentic selves when you're with each other. That's very important in a world where authenticity is just seemingly getting lower and lower. We're in the social media age where people just want to put out what they think is popular, what they think people want to see, and they don't put out what's authentic. People aren't authentic. It's good when you can be authentic with certain people. It's good when you can be yourself. You shouldn't think your friend is being fake with you. You shouldn't want to be fake with your friend. You shouldn't want to put on a mask and feel like you have to hide certain details about yourself, certain qualities about yourself. You should feel comfortable and be in a good space where that friend is good, with who you are, and you are good with who your friend is. So being authentic, is very, very big deal to me. And this last one I wanted to highlight because we know we can each all have our own qualities of what it means to be a good friend. But just want to, like I said, highlight just some I think are very important. A good friend um, calls you out on your stuff, calls you out on your stuff. While some friends, we have each other's backs and we're there for each other, we also aren't afraid to stand up to you when you are clearly in the wrong. We don't need just a bunch of yes people in our lives telling us what we want to hear, what we want to know, um, really just agreeing with us on anything, even when we're wrong. We need those who will hold us up to the standards that we set for ourselves. We need those friends who really will keep us on our toes, really let us know when we're not doing what we need to be doing, when we're not at our best selves, when we're kind of slacking, when we're getting lazy. Just being able to once again tell your friend about themselves without causing any kind of negativity. Once again, those conversations should be able to be had when these friends are good friends, when they are unstoppable friends, when we can check all these boxes off. Once again, I keep saying these conversations are hard, but they need to be had. You should be able to call your friend out on stuff without, your friend not talking to you for a month. You should be able to call your friend out on stuff, tell them they're, in the wrong, tell them you don't, think that, they're making the best decisions for, their lives or, something like that without, any crazy backlash. Um, and that's something that I just think is important. So those are some that I just really, wanted to just highlight, outside of Pastor Mike, letting us know that, unstoppable friends are trustworthy, dependable, low maintenance, empathetic. I just want to also highlight, those friends can need to also be respectful, not let you fall, forgiving, authentic, and really will call you out on your stuff. So let's just, remember that. Like I said, there are way more qualities to a friend. I'm sure everybody has their own like specific needs when it comes to friendship, but those are definitely some things that I think we need to be continuing to pay attention to when we're in this season. Like I said, early in 2023, where we're getting our year started, we're getting on our goals, where we need to evaluate those around us who are going to help us get those goals, who are going to help us better ourselves in this new year. Let's see. Since I'm older into my season years, I find myself close off to letting people in because those lack of those qualities. What do you suggest? I suggest, I know it can be hard letting people in, but I definitely want to encourage you not to lower those standards that you have. I know that can be something that when we are looking for something, if they don't meet our standard, we tend to maybe let's remove. Pastor Trace said they need to be respectful. Maybe let's push that to the side because we really want to start meeting differently. But I encourage you not to do that and just stay true um, to what you're looking for in a friend. They're out there. There are tons of people who have lots to give you, who have lots to offer you, who have different ways to love on you that you might not be open to. But I encourage you just to stay on your standards and to also look for something different. When we're trying to find, this goes for anything. We're trying to find love, when we're trying to find friendship, when we're trying to find all these certain things, we look for what is familiar. Sometimes we try to find a friend who was like this friend who I enjoyed, for a lot of years. My best friend when I was in college, I'm looking for a friend who's just like that. And by looking for a friend who's just like that, you may be missing out on somebody who, once again, might be able to love you in a different way, who might be able to become a friend to you in a better way, or just a more helpful way for the season of life that you are in. So, like I said, just really stick to your standards, but also be open to something different in those moments. Because, like I said, there's millions of people out there who can really help you in the season of your life, who can provide things in the season of life that you will need and that you don't even realize that you need, but who can really boost you in a way that really helps you keep moving forward. Friends, we'll be able to call you out without consequences, and we definitely hit on that because once again, if I call you out on something, I'm calling you out because I love you and I don't want to, see you lower yourself, like I said, to a standard that, we're not upholding. So if we get into it and we talk about unstoppable friends, we talk about this man, his paralytic, and his unstoppable friends who really were the reason for his healing, who really were the driving force on this healing. These four friends who carried this man, they carried him to the carpenter's house, and when they couldn't get in, they cut a hole in the roof and lowered him in. That's some serious friends. They're going above and beyond the normal standards of friendship. Not only they're carrying you, but they're doing what they can to make sure you get your healing. Pastor Mike said, you know, he notices that the scene never says this man was born paralyzed. So you want to think that at some point he was normal, and these friends knew him before that time, but at some point he might have gotten sick along the way. He might have not been born like that because of the fact that he had friends. As we know, when people were born with these afflictions, they often didn't have friends because they were on the margins of society, because people didn't want to interact with them, because they thought something was wrong with them. Somebody in their life or themselves have sinned to the point where God felt the need to punish them. That was the thought, and that was the assumption with a lot of these people. So the fact that he does have friends, tells us that maybe he wasn't always like this. Maybe he was once, normal. Maybe he was once not afflicted like he was now. So the fact that he had friends who were still there and still able to be there for them tells us a lot. And once again, that goes back to some of the things we were saying. You want those friends in your life who want to see you in the best light that you can. They saw him and they didn't give up on him. They saw him in this moment and they didn't leave him. They saw him in this moment. They chose to stay with him. They chose to stay with him and love on him. And what I find interesting also, we look at what's going on. We think that he may have not been paralyzed. But what I also know is that, a lot of times when Jesus is healing people, and this doesn't happen every time. So this could be a stretch, but just something that I'm thinking, that when Jesus heals people, a lot of them are coming up to Jesus and asking for this healing. A lot of them are active in trying to do this, whether they're talking, whether they're moving, whether they're doing something. And it doesn't say the man, couldn't talk. It doesn't say that, but it says he was paralyzed. But during this whole story, the man says nothing, which, kind of makes me think that maybe his friends are really the driving force from the beginning. Maybe they were all sitting there and they heard, hey, there's this man who's healing people. Maybe we should take you to him, so you can get that healing. And like I said, it could be a stretch, but it just goes to the point that you should have those friends around you that are really pushing you to be your best self, even when you're in those dark places that you don't want to come out of, even when you're feeling stagnant in life and you think you've just reached the pinnacle of your life. You should still have those friends who are pushing you to be better than you are, pushing you to get out of that funk, pushing you to try to help you become your best self. He had 4 friends around him who wanted to see him whole again, and they were loving on him in the best way they knew how, by carrying him to this carpenter to try to see if a miracle could happen. They had his 4 friends around him who were carrying him because they wanted to see him get better. Once again, real friends, as Pastor Mike said, do not put a timetable on compassion. Just because he might have been in a funk because of his situation doesn't mean that they had affected the way they loved on him. Because once again, sometimes we are in a funk. We can get in those funks where we really need those people around us to love on us. It's not like we're in those funks asking for it, but when we get in those moments, those times we can enter those dark spaces and places, and we can get stagnant there. We need those people around us who can recognize us in those moments. Like I said, be empathetic in those moments and really love on us in those moments. And don't let us fall in those moments, and really try to push us and carry us to get out of those spaces and places that aren't good for us. So we have this man, and his friends are bringing him to Jesus because they want to see him healed. They want to see him how he used to be. They want to see him moving in a better direction than he is now. They saw no difference between how they were friends before he might have been paralyzed and while he was paralyzed. So they were still loving him in the midst of his moment of where he might have felt stuck, or he was literally paralyzed and he couldn't move. So things might have changed for this man in himself. Who knows how this man's train of thought might have been if he had been not paralyzed at one point and is paralyzed now. I'm sure life was looking a lot different. Life was much more a lot more harder and difficult for him now. But once again, his friends are still there, and that's just powerful in and of itself. Because once again, during these times, if you were like this, you did not have a lot of friends. So as we keep moving forward, they go there. And when they couldn't get in, there were so many people trying to see Jesus. They couldn't get in. They didn't give up. They did not give up. But instead, they found another way. They found another way. They literally tore the roof of Jesus' home, which was kind of rude if you think about it. How you going to tear the man's roof up? I hope they fixed it afterwards. But they were so determined to make sure that their friend saw Jesus and was healed by Jesus that were doing literally whatever they could in the moment. They were not giving up. They were not, just saying, "Oh, maybe we'll come back another day." We can't do it right now. They were going to do anything in that moment to make sure that their friend was going to be healed. That's just love. That's just love. That's all that boils down to. They love their friend that much that they were determined not to let that day pass without their friend, seeing Jesus. You talk about unstoppable friends. Those are unstoppable friends right there. Friends who literally, even when things don't look like they can happen, their friends are finding ways to make them happen. We all need those friends in our life who, even when we don't see a way, they can see different ways. Even when we have given up, they haven't given up. Even when we are really kind of trailing, slowing down, they're there to push us and to keep us going at a pace that we need to be at. So once again, when we're in the season of evaluating friends and we're trying to make sure that they match what's going on in our lives and they are thinking that same unstoppable mindset that we are in, these are things to think about. This is a great story and a great example of who should be in your circle, who you should be giving your time to, who you should be opening yourself up to, who you should be allowing in your space, and who you should be pouring into. Because once again, we like to think, of our friends all being like this, but that might not be true for some. And once again, when that happens, if you have those thoughts of, maybe this person isn't the friend they are made out to, that's when you got to start thinking about, are these friends hitting off my checklist? Have a checklist, just like you have people have checklists for dating and they have something, for when they're looking to get married. Have that same checklist when it comes to your friends. Make sure all your friends are hitting off the things that you want to see on this checklist. So I'm just going to read some comments real fast. Must also be friend material. I believe I can't really move anyone from me. God has brought into my life sometimes. Sometimes I go through things with people I call friends, and that's very true. Sometimes you're going to go through things with those people. Just because, like I said, just because things get a little hard doesn't mean you initially need to just move that friend, but you should be able to have these conversations during those hard times with your friends, and your friends are going to be with you. They're not going to back off during these times. They're not going to push away during these times. Because it's like you said, you can't move anyone that God has placed in your life, because God has placed people in your life for a reason. But on the same note, God also places people in your life for seasons, and that doesn't go for everybody, but there are people who are only meant to be in your life for a season, and that's all right. Nothing's wrong with that. We often have good friends, and sometimes you go through maybe months and you're just like, wow, I haven't heard from that person. Hit that person up, and then you're like, oh, we got to stay connected, and we have to stay, I got to talk soon. We can't let so many months go by. But then once again, it's going on again. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but maybe that friend was somebody once that you talk to every day, but that friend was there because you needed that friend to be there for you to talk to every day. But now you've moved on, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you're not moving on in negativity, but you move on just because that friend may have only been there for a season. So that's a good point. You're not going to remove anybody that God has placed in your life, but sometimes God places people in your life for seasons, not necessarily for a great length of time. So always keep that in mind as well. I often think about my grandmother's friends. They don't just make humans like that anymore. You have to be very careful with assessing new people in your life and their motives. Yes. You definitely have to assess that, because I can't remember exactly what Pastor Mike said. He was referring to Jesus in this sermon, but he said people are going to come when you have something good to give. You're always going to have a lot of people around you, especially if you have something good to give. Everybody's not going to come into your life with pure intentions. Everybody's not going to come into your life, like someone else did who is a good friend. You just got to be aware. Like I said, when you're assessing your friends and you're evaluating your friends, have that checklist of, what you think is important to you as a friend, why you should allow your energy to be spent into this person, why you should allow your energy to go into this person, why this person should be in your space. Because once again, that's just very important. Trying to see what people's motivation are. Because like I said, everybody isn't coming into your life because they just want to be around the genuine person that you are, the genuine great person that you are. Some people definitely are going to have some ulterior motives, so you have to be aware of that as well. Gail says, I'm so sensitive to the energy people give out, and that you have such, beautiful examples of friendship. And that's great. Everybody's not like that, but when you can be and you can read people's energies right away, when you can sense if people are genuine right away, that's amazing, because it makes it easy. It makes the decision process easier when it comes to trying to decide who's going to get access or not. When you can kind of sense that right away, it makes it so much easier when when you're really evaluating friends, who's going to be in your life, um, and who you're going to pour into as well as let pour into you. Um, and that's another thing. As I say that, just hit me like you have people who you're going to pour into, but you have to be aware that people who might pour into aren't always going to be pouring in great stuff, which also is why you have to be careful with assessing who your friends are. Just because they're pouring into you doesn't mean they're pouring in good things into you. So be aware of that as well. That's something you should pay attention to as well. Because once again, everybody has different motives. Uh, so as we move on, we see these friends lower this man, and he is healed. And I can only imagine, they don't really talk about it, but I can only imagine what happened, that night as, his friends celebrate his healing, as he celebrates with his friends. And, I'm sure there was just a lot of love for the mere fact that they brought him there, that they lowered him there. They didn't have to do those things. They went above and beyond just to make sure that their friend was healed. So when we talk about real friends and unstoppable friends, they celebrate your successes and help you through your failures. They celebrate your successes and help you through your failures. Real friends and unstoppable friends are going to be there with you with genuine joy with your success, and with your failures. They're going to help you. They're not going to critique you in a negative way, and they're not going to kind of bash on you more. They're going to be there to try to help you, so you don't repeat those failures. And so when we talk about these friends in the Bible, they were definitely there to help him, I'm sure. And moving forward, they were going to be around him. When you have something, once again, with these people who you call friends, it's just genuine. You know what it is when you can tell when people are genuine about their celebration of you, when they're genuine about their celebration of your success, and you can kind of tell when people aren't. We get those feelings where maybe you're thinking, oh, am I speaking too much? Am I talking about myself too much? And you should, like I said, when it's a genuine friendship, you shouldn't have those thoughts where you feel like you need to dumb down your successes or not talk about them as much because you're afraid of what that friend is thinking, because you don't know what that friend is thinking. Now you don't even know if they're genuine in their celebration. So that's just also something you got to pay attention to. um, Having those friends around who can help you in your celebration. I mean, celebrate you in your success and help you through your failures. Because even when we talk about helping you through your failures, if you're in those failures, they're going to push you um, to other places of success or try to help you to get to other places of success. His friends helped him get into positions for his breakthrough, even if it didn't benefit them. And that's a selfless act. So you need those selfless friends around you as well, who even in the midst of your failures, they're going to try to help you, even if it doesn't benefit themselves. How often, even just in general, that you see people, how often are people really doing things for you when it doesn't benefit you? It's tough to see. It's tough to think about. I mean, how many people in your life are helping you just to help you, not helping you because you can help them in the future, you can help them in summer, but helping you just because they love you and they want to see you succeed and they want to see you grow and they want to see you better. How many people are really doing that? You got to have those people around you, because once again, if you're going to be unstoppable, you have to have people in that same mindset who want to see you unstoppable. So if you fail in something and you still believe, your belief in you being unstoppable may falter, they're there to pick you up and push you back into that mindset to make sure you don't leave that, and that you don't stop thinking that you're unstoppable. Because once again, we are in this season where we are unstoppable. So if you're going to be unstoppable, make sure that you have those people around you who are going to be in that same mindset and that same train of thought, who are going to push you to be better, who are going to make sure that you are where you need to be, who are going to uplift you when you're down, who are going to pour into you when you need it, who are going to hit on these things that we talked about, who are dependable, who are trustworthy, who are low maintenance, who are empathetic, who are respectful, who aren't going to let you fall, who are forgiving, who are authentic, and who call you out on your stuff, who aren't afraid to call you out on your stuff. You have to make sure those are the people who are around you. And if we go over those things, we compare them to the story. I have no doubt that these four friends checked off all these categories that we spoke about, because it was because of them that he ended up getting his breakthrough, and he ended up getting his healing. Because then, if he didn't have friends like that, you know, from before, he might have been paralyzed. If they weren't that checking off those categories before he was paralyzed, then they wouldn't have been there when he got paralyzed. If they weren't authentic before he was paralyzed, they would have left him in the midst of his dark situation. But they didn't. They stayed with him through. And like I said, they could have even been the driving forces behind him, even going there in the first place. We don't know. But we do know that they were there for him. They got him to Jesus. Even when they couldn't get in the normal way, they found a way. They made a way out of no way to get him to Jesus and to get his healing. So when we're evaluating our friends and we're in this season of believing that we are unstoppable, let's make sure that the people around us and the people we allow in our spaces and places and the people we pour into and the people we allow to pour into us are in that same mindset, because it's going to make the season a whole lot easier for you when you have people in that same mindset pushing you to be better, helping you reach your goals, making sure that you're not slacking off, staying on top of you as you stay on top of them, to make sure that they aren't pulling back on anything that they wanted to, but just pushing them to be their best selves in this year and pushing you to be your best self in this year. Because once again, we are unstoppable, and that's what we're doing this year. So evaluate those friends, have those tough conversations when needed, because we talked about that too. Sometimes you have to, don't be afraid to call them out on some things. Don't be afraid to have those tough conversations that are needed when we're evaluating our friends. Just a few more. When you cover in the spirit, lots of people who mean you no good don't approach you that often. It's what I have found to be my story. And when they do, they don't stick for long. That's exactly right. When you're walking on the path that God has put you on, you have those those people. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at somebody said, "This is Pastor Mark. This is Pastor Trey." I do look like him. I got a little more hair on my head. But when you are walking in the path that God has put you on, when you have people who aren't going to help you, God will definitely remove those people with swiftness. And sometimes you won't even run into those people. But this is also like not about people from the inside, but the people you consider friends right now, and just evaluating them. Not saying you need to just start kicking your friends out, but just making sure that your friends are in that same mindset, on the same page as you. You know, we love our friends, and we need friends. We need love, not just from our family, but we need those friendships. They are essential to the soul, and we need them. So making sure that we have the best relationships around us, the best friendship around us, are essential. So make sure that they're in that same mindset, because this year, 2023, we know our motto: we are unstoppable. And that's what we're going with. And that's what we are going to move forward with. So make sure that everybody who comes in your life this year, or who is already in your life, knows what the motto is for this year. All right. So like to make that checklist. Like I said, that's always helpful. Just like you would if you're looking for a partner, you need to make sure they check off these boxes that you're not moving forward. They don't check off those boxes. Make sure you have those same things for your friends. They have to be able to check off some boxes that of the requirements that you have for a friend, especially as we move forward in this season. But thank you all for being here. And thank you all for joining me on TNT. Grateful to have all of you here. Love you. Love the conversation. Love the FCBC family in general. So let's just pray out and let you get back to your evenings. Gracious God, we are here once again, just grateful for all that has transpired. God, we're grateful to be able to have these conversations. God, we're grateful to be able to talk with one another and be able to help each other grow, God, in moments where we need it. God, we ask that you just continue just to be the light in the darkness. God, continue to lead us where we need to go. Show us the path. Show us where we need to be. God, help us be decisive when it comes to who we allow in our life. God, help us, because we know that what we have inside of us is a gift, God, and we can't just share that with anybody, God. So help us be decisive when we are choosing and making sure that the people around us are who we need to be around us, God. Help us see those wolves hiding in sheep's clothing, God, so we may push them away, God, and help us just continue just to move forward and be unstoppable in this new year, God. As we are still early in this new year, God, there's still time to just put some new goals, some new things up there, God. There's still time to add some things to our vision boards, God. So encourage us to do new things this year, God, and to uh, reach out to some different people, God, who may bring different joys to our lives that we might have not done before, God. So just continue to do what you do best, and that's be God all by yourself. And we will continue to give you all the praise, all the honor, and all of the glory. It's in your name we pray, and we say amen, amen, and amen. Once again, FCBC family, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for logging in on YouTube, wherever you logged in from. We are so happy that you are here. Have a great evening. Be blessed. Love you all.